All Quiet on the Western Front by Erich Maria Remarque takes place over the course of 2 years, from the summer of 1916 to October of 1918, behind the German lines of the Western Front during World War I. The novel traces the experiences of Paul Baumer, a 19-year-old German army recruit fresh out of high school. Paul and his friends are stationed on the front, just a stone's throw away from enemy positions across no man's land. Paul's closest friends consist of Stanislaus Kaczynski, or Kat, Chowden, Muller, and Albert Kropp. Kat is the leader of the group. The 40-year-old is respected by Paul for his instinct in battle and his sixth sense for finding food. On his first deployment, Paul and his company are tasked with putting up a barbed wire fence along the front to slow the enemy's advance. On their mission, they face constant machine gun fire, nerve gas, and a seemingly unending nighttime shell bombardment. Ironically, the men take shelter in coffins unearthed by the bombs. Eventually, Paul is given 2 weeks' leave and returns home to find his mother bed-stricken with cancer. He finds that being home isn't much easier than being at the front because he is no longer the boy he was when he left. After his leave, Paul is briefly stationed at a POW camp, then returns to the front. While on the way to evacuate a Russian village, Paul and Albert are injured in a bombardment. They are sent to a Catholic hospital where Albert dies. Paul recovers and is sent back to the front where the remainder of his friends are either dead or dying. During a battle, he hauls a wounded Kat to the field hospital only to find that Kat has died on the way. The novel ends with Paul's death on a quiet day in October 1918. Erich Maria Remarque crafts All Quiet on the Western Front to show the inhumane horrors that become reality during an age of war, and the effects that these horrors have on the people who experience them. Towards the end of the novel, Paul becomes increasingly philosophical about death and war, and the horrors that he has experienced. He states, "Life is simply one continual watch against the menace of death. It has transformed us into unthinking animals in order to give us the weapon of instinct. It has reinforced us with dullness, so that we do not go to pieces before the horror, which would overwhelm us if we had clear, conscious thought. It has lent us the indifference of wild creatures, so that in spite of all, we perceive the positive in every moment and store it up as a reserve against the onslaught of nothingness." That's from pages 273 to 274. The statement by Paul sums up the effect that war has on a person. It causes the mind to strip all unnecessary emotions and thoughts away and focus solely on survival against the onslaught of nothingness. The reader sees this change occur in Paul over the course of the novel. The war and the awful things that he experiences transform him into a primal being only concerned with survival. The epigraph also serves to portray to the reader that the destruction of war is not limited to physical death but emotional death as well. It reads, "This book is neither an accusation or confession, least of all an adventure, for death is not an adventure to those who stand face to face with it. It will try simply to tell of a generation of men who, even though may have escaped the shells, were destroyed by the war." End quote. As shown by the large majority of characters who die in the novel, World War I proved to be fatal for a large number of men, but those who did make it out were emotionally destroyed. Survivors were unable to escape the horror-filled experiences that had become reality for them in wartime in order to return to normal lives.